Welcome, everyone. My name is Effie Star, and you're listening to Agape Greek Radio. Join me today as I welcome special guests, Thèa and Tina of Ella na Tapume, as we girl talk about love. Katine Agape, what is this thing called love? Well, today I'm going to do my very best to break it apart for you. Join us and find out what we have to say about what we love and why. But there are many meanings and contexts for love. You may use the word love to describe how you feel about your job or your dog or even your spouse, but surely you love all those things differently and to different extents. So today, I'll be doing my best to answer the age-old question, what is love, by exploring the ancient Greek, also the modern day, and Orthodox scriptural wisdom. We're going all through the ages to answer that question. So we're going to listen to a lot of music in the meantime, of course, and all the songs I'm going to play are going to be about, you guessed it, agape, love. But those are just two of the words to describe that feeling. Welcome back to Agape Greek Radio. It's Effie Star, and joining me today are two sisters that have their own show on Agape Greek Radio called Ella na Tapume. It's Thèa and Tina. Welcome.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have the two of you here to join me. In fact, I love your show, and
Thank you.
it just it just um it just bleeds into what we're going to be talking about today, which is love. Valentine's Day having just passed, I wanted to spend the time today to talk about love, which is a huge topic, in a word that we kind of overuse and has so many meanings. So I kind of wanted to start by kind of brainstorming, like, what does love mean to you, and kind of talking about a few things that you love. So Thèa, like, maybe you can come up with something that you love.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love my family and and my friends. That's just a huge part of my life and other things. Like I love my work and what I do and my interests. I mean, I love my books and just all my other hobbies, I guess.
Those are all great things, and a lot of us can relate to those, and very sounds like they're very special to you. And how about you? What is something or someone that you love?
Very good question. I think I definitely echo Taya's part in terms of loving, family and friends. I think that is so important. Family is everything, obviously. So I think for many people, that's probably would also be the very first thing that they say. What else do I love? And then there's all those little things, right? Like I know anyone who knows me knows I love Greece. I talk about Greece all the time. So I love everything that has to do with Greece, tourism, music. Those are all things that I love. So I feel like there's those bigger things and then all those smaller things that kind of bring joy into our lives too.
That's just it. There are so many things that we can attribute the word love to that sometimes that word can get diluted, and then it's hard to kind of distinguish what does that mean to different people. So when I say I love my family, and I also say I love hot chocolate on a cold day, how can I use the same word to describe different things? So I know I mentioned earlier that I'll be talking about the different meanings of love that we've had over the years. Ancient Greeks had so many definitions and meanings attached to different forms of love with different words. And then I'll be talking about different understandings of love, like today and in other areas of history as well. But I just wanted to take note that we use that word in so many different contexts, but we use the same word. We sometimes we're
Mm.
like, I really love, but that's pretty much as far as it goes. So, like, if you're describing, somebody might be describing their spouse or their job or even a dessert, and I know they mean it when they say they love all those things. How do we differentiate between those things? So how do you know that you love something? I guess it's like, how can we break this down? Like, how do I know that I love the simplest thing, the hot chocolate on a cold day? And for me, it's like how that makes me feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also maybe how much I'm willing to sacrifice for that thing without any reciprocated expectation. How do you know that you love reading, for example?
I feel like you'll know like if you love something if you can't live without it,
Mm,
sort of. So even if it's like a person or a hobby or like you said before, hot chocolate, if you can't live without it or you feel like something's missing, if that person or object or hobby isn't in your life, then that's how you know that you love that.
Can I picture my life without that thing?
Exactly.
That's how much it really impacts your life.
Yeah, and I feel like there's those little things too, right? Like we were saying before, there's the type of love that you can't live without sort of thing, the type of love that can't be replaced, like the love for your family. But then there's also the love for those smaller things, like we just said, those little things that bring you joy at the end of the day in a stressful moment. Things that you do when you're happy and you want to celebrate, what's the first thing that you kind of reach for and do, sort of thing. So it kind of goes back to what you were saying before too, is there's so many different types of love, and I think that's, like you said, something that makes it a word that's overused for sure.
Yes, and then those are very intuitive responses, and it really is. I feel like in the English language, and not to brag, but those of us who are bilingual with the Greek language, I have to say, or maybe that's your only language and you wouldn't understand me right now. But if you understand the Greek language, and actually many languages do have those intricacies, they really identify differences, nuances, and differences that not only give us a general understanding, but according to psychology, it actually broadens your life experience by bringing you in tune with, by labeling an emotion or by labeling something that you feel, we identify and recognize, and therefore we can know that it exists. So by even knowing that these distinctions exist, you start to identify the differences between these things. And that's why I think it is so important to really stop and identify and use the proper language. I'm not just saying that because I am an English major, but to use and I'm a huge psychology buff and a Greek speaker. I really do believe that using uh, really breaking down language and using the appropriate language for what you feel can make a big difference in your choices and in even how you refer to things and in how you prioritize them.
Yeah, and it does, and it lends to a deeper life experience too, right? When you're able to think about all those different types of love, for example, and live in that moment and know, the feeling that you're having and why you're having it in that moment.
It's so true. And that's kind of one of the parts of life that leads to a richer life, is to really find a way to experience things more fully and to live a more honest life as well, because you want to be able to address things in the way that is most meaningful to you and the most truthful to you, or at least I hope that that's the case for most people. And the ancient Greeks, I mean, it goes way back, but we have at least 8 different types of love identified, that they identify. And we know a couple of them, I'm sure, off the top of our head, like Eros and Agape. But what are the others? And what are they called? And also, why are they each different from one another? So I'm going to take some time to explore that. But before I do, I wanted to thank the two of you for coming on and talking about this important topic that really is the center of most people's lives. It's everything kind of centers around what we love and finding more of that. So thank you so much for your contribution to Agape Greek Radio. And of course, Agape means
Love.
Love.
yes. And I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And if you want to catch the girls, you can check out Agape Greek Radio, and all the details are on our website at agapegreekradio.com, or you can look at our Insta as well. And I will give you all those details at the end of the show, but it's also, I think it's at Agape Greek Radio. So find us there and check them out.
Welcome back to Agape Greek Radio. That was an amazing chat I had with the ladies of Elena actually the first ones to interview me on Agape Greek Radio. And I'm so grateful that they came in and shared with us about what they love. And I'm just going to continue the conversation here with you about what the ancient Greeks thought about love, or just a little tidbit of it. Of course, this is such a huge topic. I mean, there isn't enough time in the world. There isn't enough poetry. There isn't enough music. There isn't enough prayer to really express love. But the ancient Greeks really understood it in a different way from us today, in that they don't just have this one word that is kind of overly used, used in multiple contexts and diluting the meaning of it, in my opinion. They actually had identified at least 8 different meanings for the word love, beginning with eros. I'm going to go through the list with you. So eros is kind of our idea of romantic love. It's lustful, it's more pleasureful, and kind of, you can imagine that could kind of be fun and exciting in some regards, but also oftentimes that type of quote unquote love that we today a lot of times do call lust, infatuation and such, we might consider that to be a less permanent form of love. And so eros, also the root word for erotic and other sort of passion-based sensations, might not be the top of my list for healthy forms of love. Another form of love defined by the ancient Greeks, ludos, playful love. It's kind of like a puppy love. It's kind of like that pre-love, if you will, kind of that noticing you, flirting. And you could also have that in a non-romantic context, like where you're just having a great time with people, when you're sort of feeling a little bit, outside of your neutral element, maybe a little giddy, maybe kind of even just having a great time with friends. So remember that these depictions and descriptions do not necessarily center around romantic love, but this is another form identified by the ancient Greeks. And as we go through these, I hope that you can really know or really agree with the purpose for defining different forms of emotion that we currently lump together as love. But really, I will emphasize again, I do believe that lumping everything together as love really limits and inhibits the potential for recognizing and flourishing the healthy forms of love. So when we call sort of this flirting, bantering, and also lustful attraction, if we call all of that love, you can see how people may kind of dismiss the superficiality of it. Yes, I did say that. Now, I understand that coming with the fullness of romantic love, which is in a healthy form, which we haven't identified here yet, I would say that all of that comes into play with it. But when we segregate pieces of it, they alone do not, in my opinion, equal wholesome, holistic love. So moving right along, we have philafthia. So I feel like I'm in the Big Fat Greek Wedding when I do this, and I say, eaftos, self-love, loving yourself. That is, again, there's a healthy element to that. We must protect and care for our temple and create a very healthy, wholesome place for healthy, wholesome living. But self-love in the modern era, especially knowing that NPD is the epidemic of our time, this egocentric, me, now, fast, disposability centered, way of being that a lot of us have a trouble with. A lot of us are not comfortable with people's, self-focused natures, or when we ourselves maybe operate in a self-focused manner. But this is what this type of love is. So again, I'm going to say that having that in an isolated form is not healthy. Of course, we do have to have an element of this. We need to eat nurturing food. We need to take care of our health by keeping mobile, grooming ourselves, being hygienic and such. But let's not take that to the extreme and, dismiss the needs of others for the needs of ourselves, and therefore exercise too much philafthia. And moving on to our list, number 4, what could it be? Mania, obsessive love. It's like an unbalanced form of euphoric, erotic love to the extreme. You can imagine those nightmare movies where the guy's stalking the girl behind the bushes. I mean, that's mania, that's mania. There's also extreme forms of unbalanced, usually again stemming from self-love behaviors that do not equal what I believe is a healthy form of love, which is, I believe, a self-sacrificial, non-transaction dependent care for one another. So, mania is the fourth of 8 forms of love. What are the other 4? Let's take a break and listen to some music about, of course, love, and come back to the last 4 definitions of love as per the ancient Greeks. Ooh, I love a good song. We are back at Agape Greek Radio. I'm Effie Star, and I'm talking to you about the different definitions the ancient Greeks had about love. We've defined the first 4 already. We've gone through eros, ludos, philautia, mania, and now we're moving on to pragma. Pragma, committed love. Now, guys, don't freak out. I know many girls and guys out there today kind of, may hesitate when it comes to committing to love. I don't want to get into that on this call. I would love to do that in the comments at Agape Greek Radio. I would love to do that on an interview coming up. But today, let's just get through this beautiful list, now coming up to healthier love. The next 4, in my opinion, are the healthier forms of love, beginning with pragma. A committed love is, in a healthy relationship, the goal. And it is, in my opinion, the more natural form of love. And I know that many people can commit, but the idea of committing short term to me is also not really a commitment. We want to be able to have a long-term, healthy, harmonious relationship between 2 people who understand the imperfections of one another and continue regarding one another with respect regardless. And even when they falter, have remained committed to the commitment, and therefore the relationship, pragma, is central. It's a committed love. It's about tolerating one another because we want to, not because we have to, but because we care initially in the first place. And we care for ourselves, so we want our relationship to go well. We give love, and we are loving in the way that we want it received, but without expecting it the same way back. So it's a self-sacrificial, selfless form of expression of care, concern, and agape for one another. All right, storgi. Storgi is a kind of love that we have for in a non-romantic sense. So it's a love you might have for your child. It's a love you may have for your sibling. It's a love you may have for your parent, or a very healthy, beautiful friendship. Storgi is kind of you want to give protection and care to someone. It's an unconditional love, and I do believe that is a healthy trait. Now, so many people are going to react to that, I believe, because there are instances where loving unconditionally, when you're receiving very extreme forms of abuse and such, of course, that type of love you need to transfer out of a relationship like that and into loving a person from afar. Again, that is another conversation for another time. But again, the love doesn't die. It just transfers into different behavior, because you also have to be sensible and keep healthy. And, we'll get into those details another time. So I don't want to go to the extreme always and say, well, what if? But generally speaking, an unconditional love where you want the best for the other person. Okay, moving on. Number 7 on our list of 8, philia. It's a friendship love. You have like a balanced, equal feeling of loyalty for one another, and you share companionship and understanding, and you might be a confidant, or you might, just share in fun experiences, but you have a philia, a friendship love with your friend, and that's self-explanatory, and brings us to our final 8 of 8 forms of love that the ancient Greeks expressed, and that is agapi. Αγάπη είναι να θες τον άλλον έτσι όπως είναι και όχι να του λες για μένα γίνε κάτι άλλο. And that's a song by Anavisi, and I love it, and we'll listen to it soon, I'm sure. Agapi, there's so many songs about this, and it is really compassionate love to the ancient Greeks. It is selfish. According to Neos Cosmos, an unconditional love for everyone, neighbors, strangers, everybody, humanity. I remember reading about Nikos Kazantzakis, who is the author, not to be confused with the amazing singer Nikos Kazantzidis, but Nikos Kazantzakis wrote a lot about the human condition. He really did. He had a love and a real, true love and desire for understanding of the human condition, as it's called. And I read about this in a great detail in his bio, which his wife actually wrote. So agapi, according to neoscosmos.com, is existing on the spiritual plane. It's the highest form of love and the one in shortest supply in today's society. Empathy fuels agapi love, which is given freely without any desires, expectations, or judgment. Now there we have it. 8 of 8 forms of love according to the ancient Greeks. Which one do you agree with me on in terms of my opinions? Which one or ones do you strongly desire, and which one or ones do you not want to experience? Or would you like to live a combination of all of these within one same singular relationship? Let me know. You can comment. Until then, I'll be waiting. Let's listen to some songs together. And when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 love languages, moving on to more modern literature about love, according to a sort of psychology and spirituality approach. What are the 5 love languages? Let's find out when we come back. Welcome back to agapigreekradio.com, and today we're going to be talking exclusively about love. I've described 8 types of love that the ancient Greeks defined, and now we're moving on to a more modern, present day kind of system around love, and that is Gary Chapman's 5 love languages. If you haven't explored this, it really is a must, and it really does apply to all kinds of relationships, whether that relationship is romantic, whether that is a working relationship with an employer or colleague, whether that is a parental to child relationship, or whether you're the child and you want to explore how to improve your relationship with your parent in multiple forms, even a friendship relationship. This 5 love languages approach is really, really, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, very beneficial. Gary Chapman is a PhD and a marriage counselor, and he has written and come up with this 5 love languages programs. It is a best-selling for multiple years, a book or approach, and he has reached multiple people whose relationship has really been redefined, and relationship through self-work has been redefined by understanding one's own love language and that of our partner or significant other or parent or whatnot. So what you do is you go onto 5lovelanguages.com and you go onto the quizzes section and you find your love languages. What does that even mean? Well, the idea is that everyone expresses love in the way that they would like to receive it. So maybe you are the type to gift somebody, and that person really is not reciprocating in the way that you would like, and you don't understand it. And it turns out that person does not really resonate with your gifts. Like, yeah, that's great that you're getting me a gift, but what they would really like is you to tell them how you feel verbally, for example. So, in that case, the 2 love languages clash, and all you have to do to straighten that problem out is identify what is one another's love language. And it sounds hooky, but it really is quite significantly, it is simple and quite profound at the same time. Now, there are 5 love languages, and depending on the results of your quiz, you see where you rank on each. So you might actually target to be in need of all 5 love languages, or you might just be the kind of person that needs 1 or 2 of them predominantly. It also can change over time. But if you go ahead and take the quiz, it's free. You can find it online. You can see where you kind of rank on the 5 languages. And what are they? 1, words of affirmation. 2, quality time. 3, physical touch. 4, acts of service. And 5, receiving gifts. So you may want words of affirmation. That might be your love language. It might be the thing that works for you. And if that's the case, you want to receive those texts, those letters, in the mail, handwritten. You might want to receive some communication verbally where you're talking face to face and someone is expressing positive, affirming words. And that really will give you that security, that love feeling that you're looking for. If someone else that you are in a relationship with does not rank words of affirmation, you can talk and talk and talk, but they will not feel the security that they are seeking or they will not feel the fullness of it until you really give them their love language. So for example, if their love language is physical touch, guess what? They're going to want that hug. They're going to want that massage. They're going to want, to hold hands and feel your physical presence. So you can see right away, just by identifying these love languages, that you can improve your relationship and also have your relationship improved by knowing what to ask for as well. And that's a very important thing. We all want to feel loved, and Gary Chapman has offered this as a very simple way to kind of communicate your needs and also share your partner's needs with them. It's really, really easy. And it really just takes a little bit of understanding, a little bit stepping outside of your needs and kind of entering the perspective of another, giving them what they need, even if it feels kind of uncomfortable for you. If you're on the same page, will do the same for you, and you will suddenly feel, I feel committed. I feel secure. I feel like this person is giving me that security that I need. Now, this is very, very vague. This is not meant to be like your relationship advice. That every issue is very particular and specific. But just on a broad scale, talking about love and jumping from the ancient Greeks to today, this is a very popular approach that if you would like to check out, you can. In the meantime, let's listen to some music. Let's just listen to a couple more songs. I love to hear it. So let's just listen to some music, and we'll come back and we'll talk about my absolute favorite explanation of how to love and what love is when we come back. Welcome back to Agape Greek Radio with Effie Star, and we've been talking about love all this time, and now we're entering into something that I could honestly, truthfully spend the whole episode talking about and describing and defining. And not that I'm qualified to interpret or explain or, teach the Bible by any means, but I am proudly and securely a baptized Orthodox Christian. It is the center of my life, and I identify with everything that is scripturally expressed, liturgically expressed, sacramentally expressed. And right here, I'm going to talk about 1 Corinthians 13, because this passage is so beautiful. And a lot of times, if we just stop and refer to it, it oftentimes does help us to answer questions like, what is going on with my relationship? Is this person treating me well? Am I treating that person like I'm supposed to be? Like with the standard of integrity and morality that Christians are taught to. So let's take a look at 1 Corinthians 13, and it is just sort of something to leave you with, to ponder with, and maybe to reflect on. If you want to refer to it, you can. And so this passage is from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. And yes, it was to a specific group of people at that time, but we also can apply it to our lives as an understanding of what the Christian expectation is. And if you strive to be Christ-like or to be a disciple of Christ, or if you just also want to find a moralistic means of loving or accepting love, we can look at Corinthians for that. So this is the New Testament at the time of Christ and forward. So I am going to read directly from it, and it says just this: love suffers long and is kind. In other words, love is patient, love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up. It does not behave rudely. It does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. I'm going to move on to Corinthians 11 when it says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I also am known. And now abide in faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. And I just think that's so beautiful. Love is patient. If you are experiencing impatience, it does not mean that you do not hold love. It just means you are not expressing it in the ideal fashion. And it's very important when looking and seeking love and having a boundary for love. It's very important to offer out what it is that you expect. So that's the most difficult thing, I think, about maturing and about refining oneself, is to have a standard of others and then actually live up to it oneself. So I really believe, because I am a teacher and I teach children all the time, and they always say, but he did this, but she did that. And I always say, if we govern ourselves primarily and foremost, you will see so many problems just dissipate, because we will be taking responsibility for our own selves, and we will have less attention on somebody else. We will also have more compassion for somebody else, and there will just be less disputes. So love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy. Are you in a situation where you're envying or allowing yourself to be envied? Like, try not to do that, please. It's not healthy for anyone. It does not boast and show off. It does not rude. If you're rude in your relationship, hey, join the millions of people who have been frustrated and had a bad day and slept wrong. And just remember that love is also patient and kind, and your partner should be forgiving, tolerant, and, understanding, while you as well work out your difference, your behavior, and sort of continually refine to your higher self, or your best version of yourself, as they say. So I keep going over these parts, but I don't think that there's anything in here that doesn't speak for itself. Of course, we can break it down in great detail because these words are just so rich and meaningful. But I just wanted to leave you with this passage and hope that it's done something to inspire you. Now, I know, of course, we're going to have mixed opinions and mixed feedback, but I'm open to dialogue and conversation. So I welcome your comments always. But in the meantime, this is my favorite thing, is to inspire thinking and thought and perhaps dialogue. And I believe everyone has the right to their views. But this really, to me, is the perfect love. And I hope that, as the majority of Greeks are Greek Orthodox, I hope that this resonates with you, and that just talking about love today in general has really giving you a perspective and an insight that gives you sort of an expectation not only of others, but of yourselves and ourselves and myself that we should be striving for. Welcome back to Agape Greek Radio with Effie Star. We've been talking about love. We've been talking about everything about it, from biblical expressions of love to modern expressions of love to Gary Chapman's 5 love languages and more. We had our special guests that I'd like to thank, Tina and Thèa of Adamopoulos. You can find out all about our upcoming shows at Agape Greek Radio and on our website, agapegreekradio.com. If you follow us, you'll be able to keep up with our news, our upcoming shows, our comments, and our YouTube will be posted there as well, where you can also subscribe. And I would love to see your feedback about anything I have to say, because my opinions and everything I share are, in my view, no more worthy and no better than anyone else's. It's just something that I think is important, is to talk about love. And I'm so thankful that you took the time to listen, not just to me, but to these beautiful songs by these Greek talented artists. And I hope that you'll be back again to listen about everything I have coming up, because I'm going to be interviewing some pretty interesting people. I'll be doing some musical performances too. I cannot wait for it. Until next time, signing off. Me agapi.